they put it on, and they called, and they got very good reaction. So you folks were on the radio, as you will be today. We're starting to tape this again, and we're going to FedExpress it, and it's going to be edited and put on the ABC satellite network, where you hear us at your local level. Now, the other day, we had a little question and answer thing. I want you to think of a lot of good questions and a lot of good answers, and I want you to participate with our browsers and their guests. So let's take it in order here. Our guests at the end of the table. Our expert on Harry James, Johnny Macek. Expert on music and baseball, Mr. Phil Holdman. Phil. That's all kind of questions. So you folks want to start out? And I'll come out with a microphone and pick you up, so we won't have, as we did before, a lot of dead air. Hello, this is...
I'm Eddie Hubbard Johnson. I just want to know if he's married.
Yeah, I'm very much married and have 3 kids. One of the kids is 52, the other kid is 36, and the other one is 22. So,
Where do they live?
wherever it's comfortable. My daughter is in Tarrytown, New York. She's married and recently had a little child by the name of Nicole, little girl, first grandchild of the gender or whatever. And my son is in New Jersey. He's in Washington Heights, New Jersey. And my daughter is in Gainesville College. She's due to graduate in about 8 years.
Cost some money.
Yes. Yeah, she's very sweet, very knowledgeable, but doesn't know what she wants to do yet, so keeps her out of the house, so everything's fine.
Buddy, all we wanted was a yes or no answer.
Name's a medley.
Yeah, that's why you're here, to learn all these things.
The medley of my missus.
That's good. No,
So how many grandchildren are there, buddy?
There are 3 of them, no.
3 grandchildren.
2 boys and a girl.
Well, Betty's married. We'll have to look for somebody else. We'll look around. You remember that? Don't you folks? Wonderful. 5 minutes, huh?
It became a standard because of Buddy's record.
Bigger than Amtrak, I'll tell you right now. Anyone else out there? I'll come to you with a microphone. There's gentlemen around here. Maybe you can meet me halfway.
All right.
You know, this is the first rock concert that Buddy's ever attended.
Taking over Tommy Dorsey's part. He passed away. Why?
Warren, I had my own band going. It was going very, very well at the time, and after conferring with Mrs. Dorsey, it was decided that I would stay with what I was doing. And Warren took over for several years, did a great job. He made it the most popular Latin band in the world. It was T-for-2 Cha-Cha. But Warren had the band for a while, and then it was taken over by Sam Donahue. And Frank Sinatra Jr., Helen Forrest, and the Pied Pipers all went out in a package, which was booked by Tino Barzing. And then after a couple of years of that, Herbie Green had a shot at it for a while, and he decided he liked studio work a lot better. And it was laying down for several years. And then Murray McEachern, a gentleman from Canada, spoke with Mrs. Dorsey and the lawyer, and they decided to revitalize the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. And Murray did a sensational job, but unfortunately, Murray had a heart attack and a stroke, a couple things like that, and he was definitely on his way out. And they asked me to hold on and take care of it until such time as they found a leader, because I didn't want to go on the road anymore. I was in what they call semi-retirement, which is like being a little pregnant. In any case, I took it for a few weeks, and into the period of a few weeks, I realized that this is what I wanted to do. It was a perfect book for me, and it was the fruition of a prophecy made by Tommy many, many years earlier when I left the band back in '38, that someday this band would be mine. That afternoon, and then of course I believe it was a community concert later on the evening. And the afternoon thing went very well. We took the about let's see, we have piano, drums, and bass, trombone, trumpet, and 2 saxes to demonstrate the various aspects of the music business. The kids were just wonderful. They were very, very patient. And our saxophone player was doing a dissertation on a song and how it could be played in various different ways and stuff. And the end of the period, the school bell rang. And he turned around, all of a sudden these kids were leaving en masse, and he'd say, "Wait a minute, I'm not finished yet, wait a minute, wait a minute." In any case, it was fun playing for them. Those who were interested were strictly in the band. We found them there. And there's a lot of talent out there all over the country, and it's a question of meeting the kids, and we can lead them, as you say, to the water, but we've got to give them something in return. If we take away their rock music, what are we going to give them? So it's the old story.
Any particular section of the United States that is more interested in big band music? You know, what's the most popular area?
Bud?
Cincinnati and Kansas City, St. Louis, they are interested in big bands in a big way. They though prefer the Jan Garber, Guy Lombardo,
Sweet band.
yeah, I call it that. Now the swing band is primarily in the East Coast, and from Maine all the way down to Florida, and the West Coast, of course, being California and everything. The whole thing is we can make music. We have to understand that our dancers have to be able to dance to what we're doing. So lots of times you've had one of the greatest jazz bands in the world and you just can't dance to it. And again, you've had one of the simplest bands in the world and they're just marvelous. There's a guy out in I think it's Des Moines that we're working for, Omaha, who has a great band. He plays the so-called sweet music, and he plays everything else. I think it's Eddie Lane. Anybody hear him?
Bobby Lane.
Bobby Lane. Okay, I stand corrected.
Quarterback.
He has a great band, and he does both. Bobby understands the needs of the musicians, and he also is smart enough to understand the needs of his patrons. So it's a give and take situation. There's no one area that is a hotbed of great music. It's where you find it. And we are willing to travel all over. We've been to Europe several times. We've been to South America. We've been to Mexico. We've been to Japan, the Orient, and Hawaii, and Australia. And the band, as the old saying goes, have tucks, have horn, will travel.
Very good. Good answer, Bud. Now, any more hands, and we can... to my left?
Peter Graves from Muskegon, Michigan. Buddy, how and when and where did you get started in your musical career?
Well, I must have been very, very young because I remember being in the cupboard underneath the kitchen sink with the teapot and pretending I was playing a horn, parading around. Our whole family had music. My dad played piano, was a piano tuner, and originally a piano finisher of the surface things. And everyone in our family had an instrument. My oldest brother played the violin and piano and cello. And the next in line were 2 sisters. One played violin, the other played piano. And then there were 3 boys. There were 6 of us in all. My older brother played the trumpet. And when it came my turn, why, they didn't know what to look for. And we scoured the area. I was only 12 years old at the time, but it was decided since there were no trombone players of any merit outside of this great guy who taught me, I'd study the trombone. And they got me a big symphony bore horn, which is just about as large as I was. But I started on that when I was 12, hated it for about 6 to 8 months until I became familiar with it, and then the die was cast. I loved what I was doing. I could be creative on the horn, and well, after having a couple of teeth knocked out while playing football, I was sure that I was going to love the horn. I've been with it ever since. I had a scholarship. I was with Yale Collegians when I was 15. Had a scholarship at Juilliard in New York, an open competition when I was 17, and was working with Eddie Hubbard at that time. And from there, it's a series of bands in studios and studio work. And at the outbreak of the war, knowing that I had a very, very low draft number, I was back in New York and waited to call and so forth. I went, first of all, into the Merchant Marine, and which allowed me the latitude of doing some work. And they looked at it and said, no, you're going to the Navy. So I went into the Navy. Spent my time in New York doing Navy work, and we worked pretty hard. Of course, we didn't have to dodge any bullets or anything like that. We were where they were training the waves, and the only thing you had to watch out for were the waves. And after that, why, I had gotten a taste of running a band, and then I took over Jimmy Dorsey's band when Jimmy was ill for a while, and decided I wanted my own, and had a very unsuccessful 2 years, thanks to the various kinds of whiskey that I finally found out about, and everything else. I was able to go through the 2 years, then went back into studio work. I had given up and said, that's it. Around 1951, I'd been doing a lot of the recording, just about everything at RCA Victor and the various companies there. And they offered me a chance to record on my own, the Buddy Morrow band. And we started that, and music, in any time, you have to have an ID somewhere. You have to decide what you're for, what you want to sell, and go that way. You can't be all things to all people. You just can't. And we were very lucky. In the second year of my band, I was about ready to quit again. Say, that's it, I've had it. I'm going back to where I'm comfortable, make a very, very good living. And our last recording date was for RCA Victor in Hollywood. And I'd had a record that was given to me by Ed McKenzie, who was the original Jack the Bellboy out of Detroit. And Ed said, this thing's been kicking around here. And I didn't know the history of the tune before then. And it was a song that, let's see, Jimmy Forrest had recorded it. Now, in those days, you didn't have the distribution that you have today for records. In other words, getting a record company cost you $2 to just get the name, the sort of patent that you get. Now, what happened with the Jimmy Forrest record, it was a big hit locally. We recorded the thing with Dick Rhodes, by the way, who was our arranger at the time. He wrote it, the arrangement, we recorded it, and it was an instant hit. Now, what made it that way, made it so big, is that RCA Victor had the kind of distribution you just couldn't touch. A small label, you could hit maybe 20,000 people. With RCA Victor, you could hit 1.5 million, 2 million people in a month. So there's quite a difference. And that set the pattern. Frankie Lester, who was the singer at the time, said to me, oh, hey, that's your style, that's you. And I said, what are you talking about? It's another blues tone. He said, oh, no. And we took, from then on, we took the rock and roll, but it was known as rhythm and blues tunes. And most of them had lyrics. And at that time they were very, very strict as to what could be aired and what couldn't. So we took the tunes with objectionable lyrics, made them instrumentals, and had big hits, one after another after another, like 1 Mint Julep, Hey Mrs. Jones, Got You on My Mind, a whole flock of rhythm and blues tunes. But like anything else, rhythm and blues, there's no easy way. You've got to put whatever you have in you into the song. It's very, very simple. They're very, today, of course, it's a lot different. But in any case, we took the bill.
Okay, folks, back in the late 1930s, when Harry James joined Benny Goodman, he wrote an original tune that became a dance craze. Does anybody remember the name of that tune?
You stumped him, John. Tell the story.
The name of the tune was called Peckin', and it was like pecking your head over the shoulder of your dancing partner. It was like a chicken,
That's right.
like that.
Ben Pollock made it, and that was the first Harry James song that was recorded. Harry James wrote it. Okay. Do you people know any other dances, records that became hit dances like Peckin' or Black Bottom? Anybody else want to shout out any songs that became? Charleston is very good. The Big Apple, very good, Bob.
Lindy Hop.
Lindy Hop is good. What's the Johnson Rag? Is that a dance?
How about the Continental?
That's a good one. Continental, very good, Andy. Anybody else?
The Shag.
The Shag. Susie Q. Lambert's Walk, that's a good one. Started in England, 1938, recorded by Artie Shaw here in this country. Bunny Hop, Ray Anthony. So we have about 10 of them, that's very good. Bob, you have a question about Bud? Bob's got a question for you.
I think we're stumped just for this sound. All right. Switch. Is the gentleman here who stumped us with the Peggy Lee question the other day? The one I had? There you are. Is that him? Okay. Did you bring your hat, sir? We're going to try to win it back.
Get no hats today, they're all gone, folks.
We've been recycling those same hats for about 15 years now. That's why we never have to buy any more. We put them back the next day. Does anybody know Peggy Lee's real name? Well, neither do I. I was hoping somebody out there. No, Norma Engstrom is Peggy Lee's real name. I think she started out singing under the name of Norma Engstrom, right, Chuck? And then changed it to Peggy Lee. Okay.
I don't usually ask questions. I'm usually the moderator, but hearing Buddy talk here a while ago, he said he did a lot of studio work and it's on a lot of things that maybe don't bear his name. What are some of the records that you might have been on, Buddy, that we don't know about? Some of the things where you were backup for other people?
Well, one of the records that did very, very well was Full Moon and Empty Arms with Ray Noble and a guy from Boston. I'm trying to remember his name, the singer. He was killed.
Buddy Clark.
Buddy Clark. Right, and Linda was the other side.
You were on that one?
Yeah, and I was on just about every Perry Como record you can think of. You, I think it was, and then just for a period of about 6 or 7 years, I was on all his dates.
Buddy, I have a video. In fact, one of my the video he sent me, and I was just wondering if you might have been with a band at that time.
No.
I would look for you when I get home.
I did studio work with him. We did the Charlie McCarthy, Edgar Bergen show, and Ray Noble was an integral part of that. I was on all the early Fred Allen shows, Bob Hope, and a guy by the name of Archie Gardner. Archie's Tavern or something? Duffy's Tavern, that was it.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the one that started out, Henry Ulrich. Yeah, mother. Whatever, coming up, that was it.
Any big shows you were on, Buddy? Any big people you work with?
Well, I did the Prudential Family Hour, and Schlitz Beer, Schaefer Beer, Budweiser. We've done them all. The shows we did, at one time I was doing an average of 20 to 28 shows a week. And that was from about 8 o'clock in the morning to about 1 in the morning.
Primarily radio, Buddy?
Primarily radio at that time. And a lot of recording. We did the Source of NBC, which was, they did everything. They did a whole Dixieland series, a whole symphonic band, a whole marching band. Everything was...
So the library that they...
That's it.
Okay.
And they were going to have that as a service of all their stations.
Okay, Julia, I think you're...
Yeah, well, I want to ask Buddy, do you remember the girl who sang on Linda was Buddy Clark? Do you remember her name? You know, right? Anita Gordon is right. Andy Gordon. Yeah. That's about the only record she ever made.
I think so.
And it was a big million seller.
Oh, sure.
All right, I'm gonna play a little game with the folks for a second here. Let me take these glasses off and put on the other ones. We're gonna play a little game. It's a
Get on mic,
contest.
Bill.
It's gonna be a contest. We'll use the honor system. The one who answers the most of these questions will get a free autograph from Bob Knack and Johnny Macek.
Hold your hands so I can get to you, okay?
All right. I'm going to name 10 popular songs. All I want you to say, tell me which band made them. Not the vocalist, I want the band. And just, all right, Eddie, you can walk around. You want to shout out?
Yeah.
All right, first we have Boo-Hoo, raise your hand.
Go on that side, okay?
Al Kemp is right.
Let me get you on microphone. What did you say?
I said Al Kemp.
Hal Kemp was right. Many people say it's Skinny Ennis who played it later with his own band, but it was Hal Kemp's band. Okay.
Don't give the answer until you put it on the microphone, okay?
All right.
Otherwise it won't be on the tape.
This was a big...
Who was it? Hold it. Who'd you say?
Ken Kaiser?
No, I don't think they're going to get this one. It was the Vagabonds. The Vagabonds. Did somebody have it out there?
Who did you think it was?
Still here today, and maybe Buddy even plays it. The Very Thought of You. Ray Noble. But give him a prize. You can have John's autograph. Yeah, and the original was sung by the late and great Al Boley, who was killed during the war by a buzz bomb in 1941. Okay, here's an easy one. I don't want the vocalist, I want the band. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts.
Hold your hand. Hold up your hand.
Dick Jerkins. Your mother knows you're out.
Dick Jerkins.
Why did this guy come on a panel here? All right.
You're an official browser now, sir.
Here's for your swing numbers. Southern Fried.
We don't hear you gargle.
Very good, Charlie Barnett. Very good. Here's one Buddy knows, and I don't think you guys know it. Isle of Capri.
Until about 1940 when he recorded an instrumental version of You Made Me Love You, and then his career really took off into the big money. It was instrumental on Columbia. But in a movie, Helen Forrest and his band, she sang this number in this movie in 1943. Does anybody know what that movie is? Because it's out on a video and you can find it anywhere for about $2.99 in Kmart, Walmart.
Hold up your hand if you know.
John's got 20 of them.
Lady over there has...
Here we go.
Springtime in the Rockies.
Swing Time of the Rockies? No.
Anybody over here have it on my side? What happened? You
What
let
is
me
it?
know.
No.
Okay, I'll tell you, it was Private Buckaroo. It was kind of like a show for GIs, and different acts were in it, the Andrews Sisters. And even my early favorite tenor man, Corky Corcoran, had a speaking part in there, the G.I. Joe in there, and he had a little love interest.
What kind of show? They show you in the army?
What was it, John?
Private Buckaroo.
Private Buckaroo. Dick Foran was in that and sang a couple
That's right.
songs, all right?
John, did that win an Academy Award, do you know?
No, it didn't.
Not even close.
It won his award.
Okay, anyone else have a question for the browser? Hold up your
We're
hand.
going to have one night at the Black Hawk, and where Ray Baduke let Bobby Hackard play. Ray Baduke played the sticks on Bobby Hackard's bass, and they whistled to it and everything else, and they came up with this little riff, and it became one of the biggest hits Bob Crosby ever had. Big Noise from Winnetka.
And tell them where
Winnetka's a suburb of Chicago.
Right.
And a lot of the college kids would come down to the Black Hawk, and a lot of them came from Winnetka. And I suppose at the Black Hawk, one guy was very noisy, and they said, look who's here, the Big Noise from Winnetka. And that's how it got its name. And it was probably Bob Crosby's biggest hit. It's still selling. It became a standard.
Okay, Sheldon has a question before we turn to you, John.
Okay.
We know about Nat King Cole, but can you recall his two partners when they called it the trio?
Oscar Moore, and who was the bass man, John?
Wow,
Don't
I'm
come to me.
ashamed of you. Come on.
We
Any one
had
more
on here not
man.
too long
Yeah,
ago. I
no,
forgot it.
Yeah, I forgot to No.
See, Oscar Moore, and then there's Irving Ashby. He was a guitarist, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was starts with a P, I think. It'll come to me. When it starts with P's, it comes to me.
John, you had a question.
I just wanted to make a comment about Big Noise from Winnetka. Ralph Martiri had a great big band version of it, and there was also a good bass solo in there, plus a good tenor man on that date. And I would imagine, Eddie, back in that 50s, you were playing that record.
Oh, yeah, I played that many times, yeah. How about anybody on this side of a question? Want to have the mic? Okay, sir. Let me get to you.
Big bands playing
A
here.
lot of ghost bands. You got
Guy Lombardo, you have Kay Kaiser, you have
Russ Morgan.
Sammy Kaye, Russ Morgan.
Tom Basie,
that's
yeah.
right.
The Ellington Band is still performing.
Dick Jergens' band is still performing.
They're
Don Rainey.
Harry James, Artie Shaw,
Artie Shaw still leads that band from time to
Dick
time.
Johnson
Yeah.
is the leader.
out of Brockton, Massachusetts.
Yeah,
You know I miss that should have a big band. Spike Jones. Whatever happened to Spike Jones?
There's not a ghost
Good dance to it, but it was a heck of a good band. Somebody just mentioned that name. Okay, good.
Eddie, we have a question over here.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Did Don Cherry ever sing with a big band?
Yes. I have a record of Don Cherry singing with Tommy Dorsey.
On Decca, right?
On Decca,
I got
yes.
it.
And I think he'd made some recording with a few other bands. Did you work with him, buddy?
No.
No.
Of course, his biggest hit was...
Band of Gold.
Yes, Band of
He has a new album out, by the way, with, of all people, the guy with the beard and the thing, you know? Willie Nelson. You believe what a combination that is?
I'm not sure, but there was a time when they traveled on the road a lot with Ray McKinley and Will Bradley, and they fields and everything else, and they made a fantasy out of it, called it Celery. And then they got to the idea of making a song, and they didn't have a title. And then Ray McKinley says at the end of the song, he says, "Celery stalks at midnight," and that became the title.
I think he said, while we walked along the highway.
Yeah, well, that's right. But the
Very difficult lyrics.
the piece was written before it was named, but when he came in, he ad-libbed that part. That they gave it the name, and it became one of Will Bradley's, Ray McKinley's greatest hits.
Is that the one?
Recording with Harry James. Can you tell me the name of that?
Yeah, I got it, and I think I sent it to Eddie. It's called I Don't Think You Love Me Anymore.
Good record, by the way.
Very tasty.
Here's the gentleman last question.
I'm Bob Everly from Winnett.
Oh, boy.
I had to go through college. One was an L-E and the other one was an L-Y.
Yes, right.
Well, they related it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
They were brothers.
In fact, they had a third Everly. I don't know how he spelled his name.
Here's the third one right here. The guy-
Ray was the... I think Bob was the one who changed the spelling.
No.
Ray changed the spelling.
Ray changed the spelling. Ray didn't want the same. He didn't want it to be on his brother's reputation, so he, instead of a Y, which is the original, he put an E at the end of it, and he became Bob Everly with an E.
Ray was the younger brother.
Ray was the younger brother, right?
This gentleman here has a question.
Bill Shaw, Asheville, North Carolina. What band did Al Hitler sing for?
Duke Ellington.
Duke Ellington.
Made some great
The
records.
40s.
Do nothing till you hear from me.
We need invitations, Phil.
Okay.
We,
I finally got a chance.
we'll let Walter handle the vocalist.
Yeah, Bob said he's sick enough.
Eddie?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go back to a comment about Bob Everly. I have a very rare recording of him singing with Tex Beneke doing Nat Cole's Unforgettable, which is
That's really
extremely rare recording was done for MGM.
You bring it to the show and they will play it, okay?
Yeah, that's really rare.
Okay. And will you go?
I've got a question for the audience, Eddie.
Involved with music or played in his band. Relatives of Jack Teagarden.
Good question. What do you got?
Charlie Teagarden, Little T. What did he play?
Very good.
Trumpet. Okay. Anybody else?
Who played piano?
In his band, in fact.
His sister,
What was her name?
Norma?
Norma is right.
Good.
Very
And
good.
one other, Clovis played the drums, but I don't know if Clovis ever got on the bus or not. I'm not
No,
sure.
but they made a record about him. Close. It'll be all that we say.
Let's go to the audience one more.
Okay. A tragedy occurs. People get killed and stuff
Well,
like
they
that.
committed suicide. It's called
Committed suicide, that's right.
song.
And for many, many years, the stations and record people on radio were not allowed to play it because they were afraid of it. But it was a beautiful song, and there were about three or four recordings on it. I have three of them. This one has to do with vocalists of bands. I'm going to give you a name of a band, and you have to give me both names, the male and the female vocalist. Ready, Andy and Eddie? Female, all right, the first band, Jimmy Dorsey. Who was the male vocalist and who was the female vocalist? Who's got it? Raise your hand.
Bob Everly and Helen O'Connor.
He's got it.
That's right.
All right, we'll go to the next
Side
one.
over here, okay. Who's over here?
Next one is Tommy Dorsey. Now this we have multiple choices. Tommy Dorsey, male and female vocalists.
What year, she said?
Every year. From the beginning to the end.
Hold on.
Helen Forrest,
No.
Joe Stafford.
Edith Wright, Joe Stafford I'll take, yes. He's very good. There was one more.
Jack Leonard.
Jack Leonard, that's what I'm waiting for. Okay, we got enough of those. Let's go to Harry James. One of them just said one of them. Harry James, vocalist,
You
male and
said?
female.
All right, same one, but Kitty Callan also.
Kitty Callan, good. Helen Forrest is good.
Dick Haynes and Frank Sinatra.
Very good.
Connie Haynes was in there too in the beginning.
Wait, we have another answer.
Lynn Roberts.
Lynn Roberts, very good. She's still singing, by the way, very well.
Walt Andrews.
Walt's here. He's
Yes.
And he, in fact, Walt didn't want to go on mic, but he gave me a couple questions to ask. Ask Buddy about Eddie Fisher singing with your band.
Eddie Fisher's first job with the big band was with mine, right after World War II. And Eddie had a problem which has plagued him ever since. As wonderfully as he sings, he can't keep time. And he kept on jumping bars on us, and it never worked out. Finally, his manager, who was Manny Sachs at the time, the head guy with, it was Manny's brother actually, they decided to take him out of it and just put him out as a single. And that's how Eddie Fisher went with Eddie Cantor. Well, Eddie Cantor was on it too. So.
In 1902, when Enrico Caruso sang Vesta La Juba, it sold about 10 million records.
Also, Gene Autry did one with a guy named Jimmy Long, My Silver-Haired Daddy. Does anybody remember that?
My Silver-Haired Daddy.
That was a million seller.
Million seller. All right.
Does anybody have any of these old records we're talking about? How many people have 78s? How many people would like to get rid of them? It seems like, I'm saying it's kind of an in-joke because, you know, the Browsers, they have records that go way, way back. He's talking about those vintage things. And it seems that everybody that has a record that is even a 78 has some kind of value because it has a certain name on it. My gosh, look who's Enrico Caruso. What's an Enrico Caruso record worth today on the market?
About a dime.
But everybody thinks because the Browsers collect all these things that they would like to have, which is nice on your part to want to donate them, and they appreciate it. So I can say this hopefully that they're not saying, hey, keep your records, give them to the Salvation Army, the Goodwill, what have you.
If you have fun with them, keep them and everything, and talk about them, but they're not worth anything.
I'm sure a lot of
I gave away a couple of thousand 78s and 20 years ago. I had so many I got rid of them.
Most people, the most value I've ever seen out of a 78 on Halloween, the kids used to always come to my house for their, you know, when they had like hunts to find odd things, you know, they would have these like these fortune hunts, scavenger hunts. And they knew they could always get an old record from me.
Yeah, right.
They always come to my house. Mr. Wolf, a 78. Got a million of them.
Using them as frisbees.
I'm looking for a 45 that I can't find anywhere. I have it on tape, but I don't have it on 4. On a 45, it was on London Records, and it's called Johnson Rag with Jack Teeter. Because I played on that record, and I can't find it. I have it on tape, but not the record. If anybody got the record, let me know.
When you go home, look for your old 40. How many have old 45s?
The year was 1952.
Jack Teeter.
Jack Teeter's record of Johnson Rag.
How'd you want it on that record, Phil?
Well, I got 20 bucks for it, Eddie. There was a head arrangement on it, and we just ad-libbed on it, and the record got big. Some disc jockey on the West Coast started playing it in 1952, and it became an instant smash. We have it on a small label in Chicago, and London Records says, where can we get that record? And Jimmy Martin, my boss, says, I got it here, and he sold it to them for a big amount of money, and London put it out on 78s and 45 and sold 1 million copies. And in fact, they sent down engineers from England to make our second record, and Tutti Camarada was in charge of the A&R man at that time, and he comes up to me and says, Phil, where's your arrangements on Johnson Rag? I want to see what I'm going to do with what songs to pick out. And Jack Teeter, our piano player, says, we don't have no arrangements. It was a head arrangement, and most everything was ad-lib, and he sang the vocal on it, a real peppy vocal, and that's how it became a hit. Jack Teeter received royalties for 40 years after that record. My boss died, he was still making money on it. He made a fortune on it.
Okay, of course. Oh, okay.
You have very informative men up there. I'd like to know a little background of Phil, where he hailed from, and his kind of
It'll take a long time.
I knew this day would come, and I want to find out about you guys.
Not everything, Eddie. Don't tell them everything.
It might be interesting. Why don't you explain?
Well,
a lot of people, maybe, first of all, let me explain, if I may, ahead of time. A lot of people are not familiar with the Browsers. I know that they're not carried in Tulsa. I mean, keeping this good music alive with this guy here. And they don't carry the Browsers. So you're learning, the people do know about them, know just about what they do. So we're giving, this is our usual Saturday morning program. Although we play records, they try to quiz you. I just learn all these things. That's a good question. Now I'll start from there.
That wasn't my question.
What was your question?
No, but I'm just amplifying a bit. Let's start with yourself, Phil.
Yeah. Okay.
He is now.
Personally, I've been in music all my life. When I was 3 years old, I was playing a wind-up Victrola that my sisters had. I had 4 older sisters that brought home records all the time, and I'd get up on a stool, wind up the old Victrola, and play their records. I still remember every one of their records. I remember the first record I ever heard was Rose of the Rio Grande. It was on a brown record or something. I don't know who made it, but I played that a million times. And my whole family was musical. My wife's mother over there sang in the opera. Her father sang with a barbershop quartet. My sisters all loved music. I had one sister, my sister Lily, my youngest sister. She died about 10 years ago. And she knew every song that came out in the 20s and the 30s, and she could sing the verses on all of them. And that's how I learned a lot of old songs. And I said, boy, when I pick up when an LP is reissued or a CD, and John says, Phil, you know what they got on this? The song you were talking about, in 1930. And these songs that were so embedded in my brain all these years are I'm finally getting an outlet to tell some people about them. It makes me feel good to say that I remember that song and who sang it and everything else. And those things stuck to me all these years. And then I played with, I played in Army bands. I was in Camp Stewart, Georgia, when I was in the anti-aircraft out there. They looked at our spec sheets and looked for musicians to start a band. And they called my name and they said, because I was a drummer and I played around Chicago before the war. And we started a band there. By the way, that was one of the greatest bands I ever played with in Camp Stewart, Georgia. We had people from Artie Shaw's band. We had Ernie Caceres, who played in the Glenn Miller section. He roomed with me for a year. And the poor guy, he liked to gamble. And he says, come on, Phil, I want to get even. He'd bring out a deck of cards and play poker with me. I said, don't gamble with me. I said, save your money, you got to get home. And Ernie loved to gamble. He'd shoot craps and then latrines and play cards and everything, and drink a little. And one of the greatest sessions we used to have when we played a dance job, let's say at the Officers Club or a non-coms club, we'd get together and jam until 4 in the morning. And and Ernie would play clarinet, and we had Eddie Allen from Iowa, a great trumpet man who played with Charlie Spivak. I played the drums. We had a bass man from Philadelphia, and we used to jam almost all night and play some great stuff. And it was fun in the Army. It got to the point where we used to play dance jobs maybe 3-4 nights a week, and these guys didn't have any money. I had all their money from playing poker. And they say, Phil, can you lend me $5? I'll pay you the next dance job that we have, and you can collect the money. So we used to get $8 a job later on from the Officers Club, which is a lot of money in those days. So I used to buy out their dance jobs. And at the end of the month, I had all their money because they used to borrow from me, I came home with a few $1,000s, but don't tell my wife about it. And then after the war, I joined Carl Schreiber's band, which is not a big name band, but he's very popular in Chicago, and we played all over the Middle West, traveled a little bit. We went up to Minnesota, Iowa, and those places. But mostly I played in Chicago until about 10 years ago.
Let's talk about John. Give her back.
Okay, John, what about you, John?
Eddie, I grew up listening to the Coca-Cola Spotlight Bands program. I don't know if anybody remembers those in the 40s, where the bands visited the Army camps every week. I think they were on 3 or 4 times a week. And I remember hearing Benny Goodman on one show, and I went and bought a record called You Don't Know What Love Is with Art London, and I think he was called Art London at the time. And then it became a habit of buying 78s every week with every Coke bottle I could find that was empty, and going to they used to have record sales at places like Goldblatt's. They'd have 3 for $1, things like that. And I sort of went into about 600 78s, and then the LP era came along, and as of right now, I have 16,000 LPs. I have about 1,000 45s, and I still have several hundred 78s and hundreds of tapes and CDs. And my wife's looking for space in our house.
Okay.
How about Bob?
Yeah, Bob, tell us about it before you start. I want to say, folks, a lot of you came for the dance. If you weren't here earlier, that has been not canceled. It's been postponed. We'll let you know when it's going to be held. So we had this room for ourselves for a while.
Band music as far back as I can remember, and I've been involved with the Big Band radio show in Chicago for quite some time. I'm originally from Chicago. I think it's one of the finest cities in the world. If you've never been there, please come for a visit sometime. We've got the greatest food and the greatest entertainment. We have a big band playing somewhere almost any night of the week now. So the music is alive and well, including one led by Barrett Deems, if you remember Barrett Deems from Louis Armstrong's group. He's 83 years old, and he's still considered the world's fastest drummer, and he plays in downtown Chicago with a big band a couple of nights a week. And I've been doing, as I said, a radio show in Chicago, and in fact, I've just signed a contract to expand my program to 4 hours when I get back. Now, if I can just talk the station into signing the contract, we'll be all right. But that's about it.
Okay, and I want to talk to Andy over here. I decided maybe I fell in love with radio. I was fascinated with the mystery of it all, the fact that you could sit in your home and listen to someone miles away talking. I just couldn't believe this could happen. I mean, electronic, now we all know how. I don't. They say that it's done a certain way. You've got all these modern things, mobile cellular telephones, and I still don't understand it, but I like the mystique of the fact that a man could talk into a microphone and be heard miles away. One day I played drums. I was a musician too, fellas. I played drums in the school band, and every week they had a different school. I went to WCAO. They had this great studio, and there I'm playing these drums, and I'm not paying any attention to music. Here's this guy, he's talking. I said, wow, one day I'm going to do that. And I did. I kind of worked at it. And I'm from Baltimore. It's a town that has anybody from Baltimore? I don't. Well, yes, you're from Baltimore. You know the kind of accent they have in Baltimore, Anne Arundel County, and you know that.
You're talking Baltimore.
Baltimore, Maryland, yeah, see? So I said, now if I'm going to be on the radio, I can't speak that way. So I used to go to the movies and listen to the way they talked on the screen, listen to NBC and CBS and hear the way they pronounce their words. And I worked at it. And luckily, there was a new radio station started in town, the 5th radio station, and I was lucky enough to get a job there. And it was just on the all-night show. They figured, put the kid on the all-night show, nobody's going to hear him. But it was during the war, they had working 24 hours a day, and I built up a real audience just accidentally, and I learned to talk. So through the years, I decided to go from, well, what happened? I used to read Variety, which is the Bible of the business, they used to say, of show business, and I read, and I was making, I think, about $150 a week, and that was a pretty good salary in those days, you know. And I learned I was the highest paid announcer in Baltimore. I said, oh, wait a minute. I read Variety. A guy named Barry Gray is doing a show in Miami getting $1,000 a week. Now, I translate that to a salary today. I said, boy, that's some kind of money. So I said, well, I'm going to leave town. I'm going to wait. No job at all. Just blundered into Chicago. And I was lucky enough to get a job on WIND. And about 6 months later, they held auditions. The Chesterfield people wanted to do a local disc jockey show. They were looking for people, and I auditioned for it. And every major guy in town had been there long before I was, auditioned, and I won the audition. And as a result, I got every 3 months to go into New York, fly into New York, and announce the Perry Como show, and then the Joe Stafford show. And that was, ooh, kid out of Baltimore doing that. It was, oh, just wonderful. And then during the summer, they invited me into to announce the Glenn Miller Band with Tex Beneke. Came out of the Army, and that was a big thrill for me. And I went back, then they joined WGN, which is the major station in town for about 18 years. And then I switched over to, then they started changing their format a little bit too. And finally, the kind of music we're playing now was not in existence. Then all of a sudden they decided to get into the big band business, and then they said, hey, Eddie Hubbard knows all that stuff, so I went over to WJJD, and I've been with this kind of format the whole time. Then later joined the ABC network, ABC Satellite Music. That's the one that feeds your local stations, wherever you might be, and we do it out of Dallas. So it's, like I said, it's you gotta love this business. I think everybody that you talk to up here knows that it ain't just the money in this business. It's a self-satisfaction you get, and like here, when I talk to one of these things in a little room, it's nice to know that all of you folks are out there listening, and that to meet you eye to eye and personally is a big thrill for me. And I want to thank you all for coming. It's been a great trip, thanks to people like you. So that's just my story. We can continue about the more interesting stuff you'd like to hear.
Eddie, I'd like to add that Eddie made quite a few hits in Chicago. He the first one that laid on Peg in My Heart by the Harmonic Cats. And I was a record salesman at that time, and I sold more. I sold more of those records than any other record I ever had, and mostly it was due to Eddie, who plugged that record. He had confidence in it. He said, "This is going to be a big hit." And just shout them out if you could name their theme song. If you can sing it, you'll win a cap from Bob Knack here. We'll dig one out. All right, Dick Juergens, what was his theme song?
Daydreams Come True at Night.
Let's wait 3 seconds. All right, this is an easy one. Just shout it out. Bunny Berrigan. Can't Get Started. Very good. Kay Kaiser. Thinking of You. Very good. Here's one that's going to stump Andy. Herbie K. I don't know.
He said Herbie K.
He was married to Dorothy Lamour. His theme song was called Violets and Friends. That's a tough one. Hal Kemp. No. Henry Bussey. Hot Lips is right. What was he famous for? What song did he make popular besides
Day Is Done?
He did. Which Day Is Done, that's right. Very good.
Lady up here had a question just before you started your quiz there, and I'm going to find out what it is.
It goes back to you. I enjoy you speaking the... It goes back to you. I enjoy listening to you speak the words, "We thought that love was over."
Oh.
And how do you do that? Is it on tape? And did you ever sing?
Yeah, I still do a little singing. I do a little nightclub act occasionally, personal appearances. I play the banjo and the ukulele and all those kind of frightful instruments, but and I've worked with a trio. And I wouldn't say I'm a singer. I made a couple of records, but they didn't sell very much. Family didn't even buy them. But you're talking about the one that Frank Chacksfield recorded?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, see what he's talking about. So I turned on the mic and I started reciting a lyric.
It's called We Just Couldn't Say Goodbye, right, Eddie?
Oh, yeah, right. So I started doing that, and finally, I tell you what, when I go back, we're going to do one of those things on tape. So we've had a few requests to do it. So I'll meet you at the door, I'll take your name and the whole thing. No, thanks for coming.
Question out here.
Any others?
What can you tell me about the royalties that are paid to performers when their records are played? What kind of money are we talking about, and is it paid to them for their lifetime?
You know, Eddie, you want to talk a little about it? Well, there's a little bit about it. Today they make very big royalties. When you get a hit record, the artists, the writers of the songs, and the publishers, they all get their cut on it. But in our day, like, I talked to B. Wayne about this because she made so many great records. She's my all-time favorite gal singer. She told me when she recorded My Reverie and Heart and Soul and all those big hits, and she would do 2 sides for Larry Clinton, and all she ever got paid for those 2 sides was $25, and that's it, flat. He wanted to get some money for singing the songs, and he just got his flat pay that he got from Glenn Miller. Did not get a raise. He's part of his job. He's singing, and that was it. The only man who made more than $50 a week in that band was Tex Beneke. He got $52. He didn't want to play for the same price. So Glenn gave him a $2 raise, and that's what the salary was throughout the Glenn Miller career.
Well, see, I think he wants to update that a little bit. I think things are a little different. Everybody, see, every singer now has a manager and an agent who are in there fighting for him. So now, when a record is sold, what would you say the average person gets per side, you know?
Some companies are more generous, Eddie, but most of your people that want to make a record, they'll do it for nothing to get acclaimed, you know. But they make pretty big money. If you're a well-established star like Perry Como, or, of course, I don't have to tell you about Sinatra, he don't need the money. But they have big-time agents who became millionaires along with their singers because of royalties. Today it's very big, yes.
Of these situations, you probably can, maybe, without going into figures, give them an idea.
Well, the royalties can amount to millions of dollars, as you know. And the royalties are based upon the amount of airplay, whether it's a national play or local or whatever. But as you said, Andy just told you, they log everything. And even to this day, they've got, as they do playing a record or something over there, they're writing the time of day and
the artist, the composer, the lyricist.
Right.
It all is recorded.
And this is, by the way, the ASCAP, which is American Society of Composers and Publishers or whatever, was founded, I believe, by Victor Herbert and the other, Sigmund Romberg was in on it.
And there's a woman that was in on it. She started it. I forgot her name. But Victor Herbert was beginning. I think it was 1908, was it?
Somewhere around there.
Go ahead.
And they realized that all their music was being played, and this is the era way before electronics. So every famous restaurant in New York had a group of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, whatever it was, playing all this music. And the composers, yes, they'd get royalties on sheet music written for piano and or ukulele. They have those little things up on top. The person who made the most money out of any of this was the guy who invented or perfected the fingering for ukulele, which you see on all your piano sheets.
Macek Breen was her name. Yeah, Macek Breen.
That just fantastic amounts of money. But getting back to the royalty setup, it's according to your play and everything else. Now, BMI differs. ASCAP, it takes a long time to build up your royalty payments and everything else. BMI is instant credit, instant money, and so forth. This came about, broadcast music came about, a fight between ASCAP and the broadcasters.
And all you heard on the radio was Stephen Foster, all the public domain. I mean, you heard Swanee River every day, 4 or 5 times a day.
Jeannie with the light brown hair.
And Jeannie,
that slumber song.
And I got very lucky because the station I went with that signed on, they signed the ASCAP contract. Now the other player, Stephen Foster, never coming out with all the Jimmy Dorsey and Tommy Dorsey stuff on our station. Now who are you going to listen to? And that's, they finally broke the back of it, and BMI was formed about that time.
Well, BMI had to divest itself of its publishing companies. That was it. It was a ruling from the Supreme Court. Unlike a lot of the ghost bands, is in business 52 weeks a year. My contract is with Mrs. Dorsey, and I guarantee her a certain amount of money and or a figure which, if we go into lots of money, is over and above. Whichever is greater, she gets. Now, how do we get our musicians? Generally with the gentleman in the band. You get a guy who is a certain level player, and he's bound to suggest somebody that he respects in the same area. So if I need a saxophone player, I'll go to Ray Hutchison and say, do you know of anyone? Or if I need a tenor man or a trumpet player, I'll go to them and speak about people they might know, because all of them are fresh out of school, and a lot of them are fresh, so it all depends. But we do get the early recommendations from within the orchestra. As far as rehearsals go, we don't have any rehearsal schedule at all. Our one-nighters are all-encompassing. We do anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 miles a week. That's a lot of bus travel. And as to what it does to your home life, well, I got 3 children of disparaging ages. So it's not conducive to, let's put it this way. Being on the road with a band is a great honeymoon, but one rotten marriage.
How big is the book, Buddy? How big is the book?
Our book runs over 5,000 tunes, of which we carry about 300. And we keep on adding and taking away songs which we know just don't fit what we're doing today. But essentially, it is the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, and by contract, we have to play at least 65% of Tommy Dorsey tunes. All he has.
What's her name?
This one's name is Jane Dorsey. Her, well, her original name was Jane New Dorsey, and they're from Atlanta. They're very nice people. It's, Stephen is one of Jane's sons, or Tommy's sons, and the girl is Susan. That's from the third marriage. Now, from the first marriage, they have a skipper, who just retired, by the way, who lived in Denver many, many years. He was with IBM. And the daughter's name I don't remember.
Did they follow any musical?
None of them went into music.
I think, John, you had a question you were going to ask.
Buddy, do you have that great arrangement of At Sundown in your book?
No, I wish I had it. That was one of the early ones. I think that was I think it was a Fletcher Henderson arrangement. Yeah. He wrote for the band. The arrangements are unbelievable. We had everything from Cy Oliver, Fletcher Henderson, Jimmy Mundy, Axel Storno, Paul Weston, Phil Moore, and well, we just ran the gamut there.
You had a question, sir?
Yes,
In fact, I was with the band, and we were playing a split week, meaning we were 3 days in one town, 4 days in another town in Pennsylvania. Whiteman liked to stay close to New York City because we were doing the Chesterfield Hour at the time, which was on Wednesdays. Anyway, this was, I can still remember the day, it was a Thursday, and it was Whiteman's birthday. And we carried around 37 to 40 people in the band. So you can purchase a lot of cake when you want birthday cake. So we ordered this huge cake, must have been about 5 feet high, came in on a cart, and as Whiteman gave the signal for Rhapsody in Blue, which is the theme music, we went into Happy Birthday. Well, we didn't know that Paul Whiteman had an early start on his celebrating. Very early start. And he looked at his audience, and they were all applauding, and we had a full house there, and he said, "Here, you guys would like to share my birthday cake." Everybody applauded, everybody. So we went back into Happy Birthday, and as we were playing Happy Birthday, he put his hand into the cake, out in the audience. Out in the audience. Well, the fire curtain came down and asked us his job, and the manager came running in and says, "Get that fat old such and such off the stage. You're through." And that was it.
And a big cleaning bill.
I like that story. Okay, Andy, who are you in love with?
I'm in love with that youngly loved lady sitting in the middle right there. Her name is Sharon Mogwin.
Don't tell that to Browser Carl Cruise.
No, there's one of our browsers that every time they play a record, and he always brings along a Dick Todd record because he thinks that Dick Todd was the best singer ever. Caruso, Crosby, throw him in the river, Dick Todd. We used to call him the cut-rate Bing Crosby because he sounded a lot like Bing, and I think he worked at it. And when you get a Bing Crosby record for 75 cents, you got one of Dick Todd for like 35 at your local AMP. And so every time he comes on, and Carl's such a wonderful guy, and he's so serious about it, I always kid him, and don't tell me you can play Dick Todd again. You know?
So far, he hasn't played any.
Good question. All right, anyone else? Now let's find out about you folks. Let me ask you about your personal lives. We'll do that, okay? Nobody likes it better than all of us because we're talking our favorite thing, music and that kind of thing, and particularly having a guy like Buddy Morrow here to share the afternoon with us. So thanks again, and don't forget, there'll be more dancing in this band later on, okay? Let's keep it.